All right, let's bring in our special guest here. Once a month now, we're going to be doing, especially since it's October, we're in the fourth quarter. We're going to be talking about what can you be doing for tax planning so that you can keep as much money in your pocket rather than giving it, excuse me, to Uncle Sam. Also, we're going to talk about just the exciting things that are happening across the great state of North Dakota. So joining us in studio, Kent Busek with Busek and Associates. Check them out at fmtaxman.com. Kent, great to see you, and thanks so much for being here, man.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing awesome. So I want to start with this because I know that you and some people are doing just some, I think, amazing things for some businesses in our area. And it's called the Employee Retention Tax Credit, where you are helping companies put some money back into their balance sheets, if you will, through some programs. So tell us what that is.
Well, if you go back to early 2020 when the COVID first hit, there was some legislation enacted, and it was companies focused on the payroll protection plan. And that got the money out quick. It was a pretty easy to understand plan. So that's what most people took advantage of. Well, there was a sister or a parallel or a second plan that was out there, which was the Employee Retention Tax Credit Plan. And originally you had to choose one or the other. So most people took the PPP plan. Fast forward today, they changed the rules, expanded the Employee Retention Tax Credit Program, and made it more accessible to clients. So 18 months into COVID, we just finally started looking at that because there's a variety of tests and a variety of ways that you can qualify for this program. Most people failed the first one, so they kind of stopped looking at it. But there's other opportunities to get into it. And what it is, Chris, it's a credit that'll pay up to 70% of an employee's wages, 70% up to $10,000 of an employee's wages for quarters 1, 2, and 3 in 2021. So if you have 5 employees that you're paying $10,000 to, you could potentially get a $35,000 credit back per quarter from the federal government. And again, this kind of got lost in the shuffle. And the reason why it got lost in the shuffle is one of the tests that you have to look at is there's a revenue decrease test. And again, you look around Fargo, you look around Moorhead, North Dakota, Eastern North Dakota as a whole. Most companies didn't have revenue decreases in 2022. I mean, we're very fortunate because of the Burgum-Sanford administration, which we're going to talk about later. The fact that, we stayed open for the most part. So as a result, people looked at this test, well, we don't qualify. Well, fast forward 18 months down the road, because of what's happening nationwide around the country, that's now starting to impact some of the businesses in our trade area. We're taking a second look at some of these companies, and they are qualifying. And again, it is a very, potentially a very lucrative credit for these companies.
You're being humble. Give us some, you don't have to name companies, but just give us some anecdotes of, hey, Chris, this company called me, we work with them, and now we brought back X amount of dollars into their bank account.
6 figures is not unusual. I mean,
wow.
And the reason being is if you have 15, 20 employees, with what wages are in this community at $20, $30 an hour, it's very easy to max out. But as for how they're qualifying for it, we look at government shutdowns, government mandates around the country. And if you look at what's going on in California right now and how things are getting caught up in the Long Beach port, well, part of that's because of government mandates. And we could look at, whether it's a shot mandate, whether, whatever Governor Newsom is doing out there, creating havoc in the state of California, which then is flowing through the supply chain to us here in North Dakota. And again, it's pretty abstract, but again, these are the type of things that we're looking at to see if clients qualify.
So just so people heard that correctly, if you've got a business, he is now helping businesses because of some of these shutdowns and the mandates recoup 6 figures back into your business, tax-free or no?
Well, no, you have to pay taxes on that.
Okay.
That is different. But again, if the federal government is giving you a $100,000 tax credit, a tax refund, you may pay $30,000, $40,000 of taxes on that. So again, it's still 60, 70 cents on the dollar for free.
So with that being said, give out your phone number and website, please, because I'm sure there's people that are going to want to contact you.
Well, you can reach me at the office, 701-356-7867, 701-356-7867, or you can contact Chris here at the show, too, because one thing we like to do with programs like this is we like to track, where do we get the phone calls from? Because it's great for Chris and, talking to other advertisers and other business partners that he has. Scott and Steve love it when I tell them I come in and tell the head bosses here that, I was on your radio show and I got too much work and I can't talk to you anymore. So again, if you want to chat about it and, whether I do the work for you, your accountant does the work for you, that's fine, but just really want to make you aware of it.
Thank you. Again, to call Kent if you want to ask him more about, hey, does my company qualify to get some of these reimbursements? 701-356-7867. Amazing plan. Okay, now year-end planning. We've got, 2.5 months left or so in this year. Talk to us about, if you're a business, what can you be doing to ensure that you keep as much money in your pocket and don't give it to Uncle Sam?
Well, and I look at it from two different standpoints, not only from a tax saving standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. Some cases it is okay to pay taxes because, if taxes are going to go up next year, maybe we don't do some of the deferral techniques. But again, on the flip side, we typically try to limit or defer taxes as much as possible. So, the first suggestion that I would have is start early. And, I'm going to be on a few more times before the end of the year. We can get into more specifics. But again, we're in the middle of October. It's 10 weeks from the end of the year. Start planning today. The other thing to be looking at is as we're getting closer to the year end, we're getting a better idea as to what the tax law is going to look like. So for most of the year, we've been concerned about huge tax increases that the current administration would like to have enacted. As we get closer to end of year and everything that's going on in Congress, it doesn't seem like much, if anything, is going to pass, which is good because these were some pretty draconian tax increases: double capital gains, increase corporate taxes, increase
The
personal
basis
income tax.
points.
Yeah, get rid of the step up in basis for estates. So again, as of today, none of this has been enacted. Doesn't look like much, if anything, is going to get done just because of all the problems going on in the administration flowing over to the tax side. The other thing, and this just came out today, a lot of talk about it, the IRS and the banks, or the IRS was going to force the banks to tell, have the banks tell the IRS every time you made a $600 transaction, a cash transaction, because, the billionaires, this is how they hide all their money. That was the story we heard. Well, anyways, that kind of went by the wayside today. I was reading something that they're moving it more up to a $10,000 level, which is, again, more similar to the current rules. If you do a $10,000 cash transaction, you have to fill out a CRT with the bank, which then gets filed with Treasury. So that's kind of going by the wayside too. So big picture, knock on wood, we're going to keep the taxes the same as they are right now. So then we could really do some good planning because we know what we're dealing with. It's hard to plan when we don't know what the rules are.
Exactly. So last question on the taxes, then I want to move on to North Dakota. So let's say, for example, someone's wondering, hey, am I going to find myself in a tax crunch or not? What are some things they should be looking at for themselves personally to go, okay, I need to call Kent and do some tax planning now to ensure that I can keep as much money in my pocket and not give it to Uncle Sam?
Well, and again, it's a situation by situation basis. So again, take a look at your investments. If we can meet with your lawyers, if we can meet with your investment guy, bring in your pay stubs, kind of tie it all together. Because a lot of people have a lot of moving parts. And, for the most part, people don't pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
And so again, just do a financial checkup, whether it's for your own long-term financial planning, whether it's for insurance purposes, whether it's just to see if you have a good tax plan right now. Just, talk to your people. Don't be afraid of your taxes.
7867 701-356-7867, or check them out at fmtaxman.com. Again, fmtaxman.com. Sit down. You can start planning for the end of the year tax situations and keep as much money in your pocket as you possibly can. When we come back, before we go to break in, I do want to just ask you this to kind of tease what we're going to talk about when we come back. For me personally right now, when I look across the great state of North Dakota, I can look at any quadrant, and I don't know if I've ever seen our state so poised, so primed to explode economically. I keep talking, hey, let's make North Dakota the freest state in the nation. That's the brand to attract this workforce issue. In your eyes, one, do you think that's an accurate assessment on my part? And number two, what do you think is one of the most wow things going on in the state right now?
Well, I think you're exactly right, and I think people underappreciate what's going on. We can see it in Fargo, West Fargo, Moorhead, to a lesser degree, what's going on. I mean, there's building, there's construction, there's new schools, there's people moving here. But you get west of 45th Street, we always said that's Western North Dakota. Now it's west of Cheyenne is Western North Dakota. There's so much going on. And, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to the Burgum and Sanford administration, which I'd like to talk about because I don't think they get enough credit for, number one, a year ago keeping the state open and just the path they took. And just as a result, people want to live here, they want to work here, and it's just creating opportunities for everybody.
Well, and with that being said, folks, I mean, the GDP of the state is about $50 billion. We've got right now on the docket pretty much sounds like done deals. They need to get inked, but $25 billion coming into the state fairly soon, half of our GDP. So, yes, things are cranking. We're going to have that conversation with Kent when we come back to talk about what are some things that are popping out in his eyes, because you're born and raised in the state, yes?
Right, I'm from Western North Dakota.
Born and raised. So we're going to talk about some things that are popping out to him. If you've got any questions, comments, number to call into the show, 701-271-1100, 701-271-1100. Stay with us. You're listening to The Chris Berg Show. All right, welcome back to The Chris Berg Show. Sticking with us here through the break in the next segment, Kent Busek from Busek and Associates doing some really, really just fantastic things for local businesses as far as keeping your money in your pocket and maybe even getting some more money back from Uncle Sam to put into your pocket. But what we want to do now is Kent, born and raised in our great state of North Dakota, from Western North Dakota, is just look at a big picture view of what's happening. I sort of set the primers there. You did as well, Kent, but being born and raised here and seeing all the activity that's going on, I'm just curious, what, if you were going to point and say one or two things right now and go, man, this is amazing what's happening in our state, what would that be?
When I graduated from college in 1988, I had to leave because there were no jobs. I mean, when I say there were no jobs, I mean minimum wage, temp jobs, there was nothing. So I moved to Texas for a year right out of college, Denver for 3 years, Minneapolis for 5 years before I moved back in 1996. So again, that's kind of what I grew up with out in Western North Dakota, in Fargo, going to school here. There wasn't opportunity. You left. And then I was fortunate that I was able to come back in 1996 when we decided to, we just got tired of the cities and we moved back. So again, you look at it today where, a kid going to college, kid going to high school. I mean, my employees today, anybody, if you want to work and if you want to take a risk, if you want to go out, start a business, the opportunity is endless. And because there's so many needs, because we drive around, there's niches. So people starting new businesses. Oh, I never thought of that. And, which just creates more growth. And you look around. I mean, you talk to the city leaders here in Fargo, they'll tell you 10 to 12 people are moving to town every day. Just stop and think about that. That's 4,000 to 5,000 people a year that are moving here. So that's construction jobs, that's schools, that's nurses, that's teachers. That's in Fargo. That's what we see. But I really think what's starting to happen is out west again. So we had the oil boom, which a lot of that was a transient type worker. The guys on the rigs, the guys that were laying the pipe in Western North Dakota, they were just here for the short term. They were in, they were out. They never moved families. But if you start seeing what's happening in Western North Dakota, and it started with the state helping Coal Creek, the Coal Creek plant stay open and get sold to private investors from Bismarck, North Dakota. So that was step one, that, we need a sustainable energy future. And, Coal Creek is at the start and the end of the grid. So we're not going to have the problems that they had in Texas and New Mexico last winter when there was too much snow and cold and wind power and solar power didn't work down there. We've got the coal generation going on, not only there, but Antelope Valley, a little bit farther west. So they've made a commitment, the state leadership has made a commitment to make these types of businesses work. So that was step one. Just more recently, though, with the announcement of the new plant that's going to be built in Wilson, phase one, phase one, $2.8 billion. Now, the purpose of this plant is they're going to take a natural gas byproduct that gets burnt off, or I don't know what they do with it, but it was a wasteful product, ethane. Well, they're going to make it into a plastic product, and then it gets shipped somewhere. I hate to say it gets shipped to China, and then it comes back as pens, pencils, papers, what have you. But again, they're going to manufacture this in North Dakota instead of on the Gulf Coast or the West Coast. So phase one, $2.8 billion. But the thing with that is private investment. It's not a government project. It's not a government subsidized project. It's outside investors coming to North Dakota, seeing the opportunity. So again, you've got the people that can work there. You've got the geology with the natural gas, the shale there. You have the regulatory support. North Dakota's been pro-energy all these years. So So then you throw in the fact that phase one, $2.8 billion. There's more phases potentially planned. That's one thing. So the other one to talk about then would be with the coal gasification plant in Beulah, in which, again, they're looking to invest $3.5 billion in that. So again, you threw around $25 billion. Those are the types of projects that are out there. And then from there, those projects can expand over to eastern North Dakota because they want to build a natural gas pipeline from western North Dakota. We have a problem, too much natural gas. We're flaring it off. Well, we're going to put it in a pipeline so we're not flaring it off, make some of the people on the left a little bit happier that, we're not burning the gas. Then it's going to go into the, I believe it's a fertilizer or the soy plant in Spiritwood. So again, jobs out west, transport the product to the east, build a $300 or $400 million plant in Jamestown / Spiritwood. And again, this takes leadership. And I mean, these are huge, aggressive projects that can't be done just by the state. I mean, we don't have the money for it. The federal government isn't going to support projects like that today. So again, they went out and they've looked for private equity saying, hey, there's opportunity here. And again, there's jobs, there's good schools. People are going to move here. They get here. They like it.
Kent, always great to have you in studio. Such an important conversation. We appreciate it. We'll have you back in a month, yes?
Yes.
Awesome. Again, Kent Busek, check him out at fmtaxman.com, fmtaxman.com.